Welcome back, Year 12 Global Politics. Today we will be looking at power, in particular political power, and what the definition is and some examples of it. In terms of the skills for political power, what you need to be doing is being able to evaluate it. So, how has it been effective and in achieving a national interest, and how has it not been effective in achieving a national interest? What we also need to be able to do is discuss the relative importance or evaluate the relative importance. Different states will value political power depending on who they are. For China, I would say that political power is relatively important because what China needs to do is pass legislation and do, you know, pass executive orders to keep the CCP in power. Keeping the Communist Party in power is incredibly important to China to help protect the regime security and also their national security. So it is relatively important. However, sometimes it isn't very effective in achieving or improving their international standing. Perhaps a lot of states will view China very negatively because of the legislation that they do pass and the actions that they take within their country. So let's get into what political power is. Often students will confuse political and diplomatic power. Diplomatic power is what a state is doing externally. So it's the discussions and negotiations with other diplomats or what they do in the United Nations. Whereas political power is what a country does internally to influence the actions of others. So internal machinery. It's a really important, probably key word to remember. It's what you do within the country to influence others. So it may be that the country is passing legislation, executive orders, and white papers to try and protect their national security. So China has done a few different things in this way to try and achieve national security. So what China has done, for the first example, with the national security law in 2020, they passed the national security law which criminalized secession, subversion, terrorism, and collusion, which was what they were trying to influence here was freedom of expression in Hong Kong. So trying to stop pro-democracy movements within Hong Kong, which was overall trying to achieve national security for China, trying to prevent people from rising up and protesting like what they did in what the Hong Kong people did in 2019. So that's what they were trying to influence the actions of the people within Hong Kong. They have also passed other legislation. In 2021, they passed the Patriots Law to ensure that only patriots could run in Hong Kong, which would then, again, prevent opposition, prevent people that didn't love the People's Republic of China from running in politics. So this law was completely closed the loopholes that allowed people that were pro-democracy or were anti-China from running in Hong Kong. So overall, trying to influence the actions of the people in Hong Kong, but also importantly, achieve national security because it's preventing pro-democracy from occurring in Hong Kong. Another way that China has tried to, protect and exert influence over people is through the re-education camps in Xinjiang and other kinds of legislation that have been passed in Xinjiang. There's been lots of different kinds of legislation that's been passed by the CCP to control the actions of the people in this area. For example, they don't allow unusual names or beards to be worn or to be had in this area. They are trying to really quash the Uyghurs. So they've also, obviously, in 2018, they did start these re-education camps, which hold nearly up to maybe 2 million people that have been held in these camps to try and stop the three evils, terrorism, ethnic separatism, religious extremism. So whilst they have perhaps been successful in achieving their use of political power, and the reason why I say that they have been able to influence people is that there has been a decrease in terrorism in this region. terrorism has decreased. So perhaps they have influenced the actions of extremists in this area, the extremists that they were originally trying to target, they which may then help them achieve national security. What they haven't been successful with here is improving their international standing. There have been a number of countries that have been incredibly critical of China's use of these camps and their treatment of the Uyghurs. You've got people in the United Nations calling it genocide and, serious crimes of humanity, crimes against humanity. So there is a lot of condemnation. So therefore, whilst they may have been able to influence the actions of the Uyghurs and been perhaps able to stop terrorism and control these people, they have been, very widely condemned for these actions. So their political power may not have been very successful in improving international standing. Another way that we could probably talk about political power is the social credit system. That's another example students may talk about, or even censorship within China, the Great Firewall of China, which a number of things have been blocked by Chinese censors. So that could be something to talk about with political power. But again, I want to stress that it is the internal machinery. So you wouldn't be able to talk about China and, trying to prevent, or I guess their actions in the UN. That would be diplomatic power. So political power, what they are doing internally. Overall, though, I hope that was helpful in helping you understand political power and, how it's been effective in achieving national interests as well as how it's not been successful.